Good evening and welcome to the continuation of the council meeting from the 20th of May that we have had to adjourn and we're completing this evening. I go straight to absences and we have apologies from Councillor Zing, Councillor Dawes and Councillor Henschke. Now we move straight into 11.9, feasibility study, Councillor Turnbull. Page 224.
Thank you, Mayor. Finally, I get to say thank you to the really fantastic staff who organised this. The recommendation is that Council notes the extension of the Aquafit program trial, the 2025-26 Fitness in the Park program for spring 2025 and autumn 2026, subject to the engagement of a suitable and qualified instructor. I've been really looking forward to talking about this program. It was a real restoration of faith for me that events can happen quickly and successfully. As you're probably aware, Aquafit is a water-based exercise class which uses the resistance of the water to improve your strength, flexibility and cardiovascular health. It's an effective way to improve health and well-being while reducing impact on the joints for us oldies. As part of the Council Autumn Fitness in the Park series, Aquafit was added on a trial basis and commenced on the 13th of March. This program was organised so quickly and efficiently by the Community Connections team. A qualified instructor was found after 30 telephone calls and hopefully she'll be available in spring to continue the program. Big thanks to Belinda and her awesome team, particularly Jazz, Marissa and Jennifer. I was so worried that no one would come, but the people did and the classes were full with a waiting list and the series of 6 was completed. And it was fun. One participant yelled out halfway through the class, "Isn't this great? Sun, trees, birds singing." Some wanted to keep going through winter, but we know that wasn't feasible. So maybe increase class sizes or even more classes next spring, maybe some other new programs. I ask that you support this recommendation. Thank you.
I'm seeking a second. Councillor Harvey, do you wish to speak?
I will serve my right.
Then Councillor Davey. And could you turn your microphone off, please, Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you. Yes, I absolutely support this. I think and acknowledge the staff urgency, I was going to say, but the quick turnaround in actually getting the aquatic fitness classes underway and organised at the swimming pool, and the fact that so many people took advantage of it. We had classes right from I think it was for 6 weeks, wasn't it? For the whole 6 weeks. Lots of people booking. It showed that, that there was a demand for it, and I hope they'll continue next year and on. Thank you.
Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've just got a question for administration about funding this. Isn't there buckets of government support, i.e. the NDIS or the Department of Ageing, where we could reach out for some help paying for this so we're not drawing on our own monies? Thank you.
Through the Mayor, potentially yes, particularly NDIS is an area that we haven't explored in detail, but it's certainly something that's worth looking into in the future if we expand the program, particularly for people with disability. That's certainly an option worth exploring. And yes, look, those government departments always have different grant programs available, so absolutely we'll keep an eye on those and apply where we're able to.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Fully support this. It's only costing us $80. I think Council can afford $80 outlay there for that. And if we've got a lineup of people, we probably don't need to spend as much on promotion for it. So it could probably be a budget's winner for us, or not a saver, it's an earner, budget earner for us. I'd just also like to thank you guys for all your work, and especially coming to 3 council meetings that have been very long just to wait for this item to be discussed. So thank you for your time for that too.
Councillor Harvey, do you wish to speak? All right, then I will go back to Councillor Turnbull. Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. The next one is Council Service Reviews, page 233, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor, Madam Mayor. I'll move in accordance with the recommendation with just a slight amendment, which is to number 3, requests the Chief Executive Officer to develop a continuous improvement framework for the City of Burnside in consultation with elected members. If we could just add in consultation with elected members. I'm sorry I wasn't able to send this through beforehand, but I think it's pretty straightforward. I'll speak while you add that to the, thank you. As you'll recall, we committed in the last budget discussions, very robust discussions, that we had to undertake a review of our services, which was demanded by our community. As has been outlined in this report, asset management plans are key strategic documents that guide our long-term sustainable investment in council-owned assets to ensure consistent service delivery and sound financial planning. I think that the goals and targets of our City of Burnside Strategic Plan 2024-2030 need also to be included, as not all of our assets are specifically identified, such as our trees and parks, and the conservation and maintenance of these. They're not considered in the same class of assets as are our roads, footpaths and curbing, for example. Also our reserves and verges are not part of the traditional asset management class. So while a thorough review is scheduled for the 2027-28 financial year, we need to consider the development of a continuous improvement framework to develop a systematic approach to enable us to identify and review our processes, services and operations. This will ensure value for money and better outcomes for the community. I believe such a framework will identify improvements, how we can reduce costs and evaluate the effectiveness of any improvements consistent with our, as I said, strategic plan and our sustainability strategy. As outlined in the report on page 236, paragraph 17, that covers the continuous improvement framework, and the success of this depends on identity of service levels, which must be clearly measurable and achievable using current resources, which is the ideal. Under the third point, for development of a continuous improvement framework, it is critical that we as council members are involved in its development. So hopefully this will start the process off and that we will have a role in its development and providing input, knowing our communities as we do. So I hope you'll support this additional recommendation. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. If there's no seconder, then the motion lapses.
I'll second it.
Councillor Wilkins.
Happy to hold my...
Are you going to... All right. I don't have anyone else who wishes to speak, so perhaps now is the time. Otherwise I will...
Well, I think in all of our assets we do need to be actually reviewing them and making sure that we are, thank you Jane, using them appropriately and to the best advantage for our ratepayers. So I'm happy to support this.
Councillor Jones. Councillor Wilkins, can you turn the mic off, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, this is pretty embarrassing, isn't it? The Audit Committee thinks that we're so rubbish as a council that we can't be trusted to do a review of council services in case we end up spending more money. Look, I recognise that the council is not the best at not spending money, but we have shown some degree of restraint in not increasing costs. And we did make a commitment that we would go out and review services, and I think we should do so. I think it's not just good enough to say, oh, the audit committee thinks you're hopeless, so let's just give up on that ambition and just keep relentlessly spending money. And look, I look at this fascinating attachment 1, page 244, where the staff have gone through and tried to itemise the costing. And there's lots of things here as an ex-auditor I'd be fascinated to dive into to understand what we're spending money on. Burnside Library. We spend $1.6 million operating costs. That's excluding the cost of the books, because that's a capital item. And yes, 250,000 people use the library every year. But what that means is it costs us $6.40 every time somebody sets foot in the library. Does that seem quite a lot to you? I mean, if you owned a bookstore and it costs you $6.40 every time someone came into your shop, I reckon you'd be going out of business pretty quickly. And bear in mind, there's no rent there for occupying this prime real estate. So I'd really want to understand that and understand, you know, maybe what if it cost $5 for everyone who set foot in the library rather than $6.40? Immediately, we've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. There are other things in here. On page 240, I think, certainly on one page, we've got an environmental sustainability department. That's on page 247. And then a few lines lower down, we've got another department promoting environmental sustainability. It's like we've got multiple departments doing the same things. We've got a strategy department, 5.4 people in it. I've worked in billion-dollar corporations with thousands of employees. Can't afford to have 5.5 people in their strategy department. There's all kinds of things that we should be probing, colleagues. So I can't support this motion. I think we need to make the commitment that we are going to look for value for money for ratepayers and see if there are things that we don't need to be doing. We just accumulate these things over 100 years, and maybe we actually need to sit down, start poking holes in things and saying, how can we cut rates for ratepayers? So I hope you won't support the motion.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Then I will go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Thank you all for your input. I don't think we can send this out holus bolus. I mean, some work has been done. We are committed to doing a more significant review in 27-28 financial year. But as I understand it, the continuous improvement framework at least starts the process for us to look at our services and how we can start to evaluate improvements and review these as we go along. I think there's models in other councils, or I believe there's models in other councils that we can follow. And I think we need to start something in terms of a process, because we haven't been doing very much in the interim. And while I agree with much of what Councillor Jones has said, we do have to start the process. So I think this is a good place to start. And I've just added the proviso that we as elected members are consulted. I think we really need to be involved in how we develop the framework and proceed with it. So hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, just before, we've using the terminology council members not elected anymore. I just wondered whether you wanted to swap that before I put it to the vote. Yeah, that's okay. Could we just change that to council just to be consistent with everything else that we do? And then I will put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Division's been called, so those who voted in favour, please stand. Councillor Jennings, Wilkins, Turnbull. I might just have to wait for a moment. Okay now? Cornish, Hallett and Davey. Against, Councillor Jones and Councillor Harvey. Thank you, and the motion was carried. Now we move to The Chief Executive Officer's report. No? Yes. I think there's, yeah, that's right. Chief Executive Officer's report, Councillor Davey again.
Thank you, Mayor. I move in accordance with the recommendation, and I just had a couple of questions, if I may.
Sorry, it's page
294.
Page 294. We're waiting for your questions, Councillor Davey.
I'm happy to second if you.
Thank you, Councillor Cornish.
Thanks. One's been superseded, and I believe very successfully, but I'll be able to ask. On page 295, the activation and environmental sustainability. Was I believe a success, and so I wouldn't mind a couple of comments on that. And also the recycling event that was held on Saturday this weekend, where residents were able to bring their household linen and recyclables, and they'd broadened it a bit to shoes and all sorts of other things. How successful that was. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, thank you for your question, Councillor Davey. CEO News has just gone out late today where I've covered some of this, but you wouldn't have time to see that. So we had more than 2,000 people attend the Environment Expo that had Hannah Maloney there. So that's despite some of the weather. The weather was a little bit gloomier this year than last year, but still a really positive turnout, and I think Hannah Maloney was very popular, as well as the Sustainable Fashion Market. And then just on the weekend past, on the 24th, we had the Set Your Clothes Free textile collection event, and we had over 220 donations received, so quite a few. I'm not sure how many cars came through, but quite a number of cars came through where donations of clothes, good quality clothes, as well as sheets and towels and other Manchester. So on the whole, a great success.
Any further questions, Councillor Davey? Right, then Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a question, page 304, about Brownhill Keswick Creek, the most awful subsidiary that Burnside Council owns, worse even than Era Water. Now, you've got an amber traffic light next to Brownhill Keswick Creek concerning state government wanting additional funding from us. And also on page 50, in the Brownhill Keswick Creek draft budget, they draw attention that they still haven't got all the money they think they're going to get from the Commonwealth, like tens of millions of dollars shortfall. There was nothing forthcoming in the last election. What's going to happen if they run out of money? Are they coming back to council for more money, or is our commitment firmly capped?
Through the Mayor, it's still, that's why it's amber, Councillor Jones, it's still up in the air regarding extra resources required. So obviously they have not got the money, at the last meeting that I attended, there were 2 requests from state government for additional funding for the Bureau of Meteorology and I can't remember the other program, another state government agency as a state flood hazard leader looking for additional money, not in the terms of millions of dollars. So for us, we are 12% of the entire costs of contribution. There are questions remaining on how the rest of the infrastructure is to be funded, but that would obviously be something, if there was a request, it would formally have to come back to the council.
Councillor Hallett.
Just 2 comments, please. One is about Set Your Clothes Free, which I attended, and I thought it was fantastic. It was really well organised. You just drove in, they positioned you into where you needed to be, and basically helped you carry everything out, which for me was actually really helpful. And I think I got rid of something like 20 sheet sets and then quilt covers and things like that. So it was fantastic, that's what I thought. And then in regard to what Councillor Jones was just talking about in regard to Brown Hill Creek, Keswick Creek, I seem to recall that in the report that we considered last week, there was something about their operating deficit and it's increasing. And I thought that sounded a bit concerning. And I was just wondering whether anybody's got some information about that. They've got an operational deficit.
Through the Bear, unless Barry can respond to it, we take it on notice. There are some specific, the next meeting is 25th of June. So I think with Era Water, well, I think with all our subsidiaries to a certain extent, we're getting to a time where there is, where we have to really start asking some difficult questions. With Era Water, it is around financial sustainability and the finance managers getting together, which will be happening, I think, once budgets are sorted through. And with Brown Hill Keswick Creek, it'll be very much a case of finding out where are we exactly financially with regarding to the actual stormwater management plan and the infrastructure proposed. So I just would like to add to council members that I've chosen that the subsidiaries, that directors will be, it won't be just me as the CEO, I have oversight, but relevant directors will be attending. So in this case, it's Barry, given he's obviously involved with the city operations and the infrastructure. So I'm looking at Barry now and to see whether he has further comment.
I do remember where I got it from, and it was from item 11.2 and
Page number, please.
41. And as it says in the recommendation, council endorses, and then it says an operating deficit of 236K.
Through the Mayor, part of that rationale was included within the discussion that was adopted by Council last week, and you'll likely recall that Council actually adopted to accept that deficit as part of that. The report itself went into a little bit of that, and it's essentially due to the nature of the operations, funding received is predominantly for the construction of assets within the network. As a result, the organisation is anticipating an operation deficit of 236,000. Net income 12.6 million, less capital grants of 12.8 million, and the impact of Burnside was 46,000 deficit. Got a page for that one. 43? Yeah, 43, thank you.
Right, just need to put a mic. Could you put your mic off too, please, Councillor Hallett? Next person is Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. Just page 304. Could we please have an update as to when the chair of the board, the Pineview Village Board, can come and update us. It was decided last year that that person would come twice a year to give us an update because none of us had much idea what was going on. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, the Chair of Pineview Village did come to the ARC meeting, but he hasn't quite come to full council yet. The information that he provided was then in the minutes report that went to council. However, we will work with him. I think we'll set up perhaps a workshop or similar pending the report next council meeting. But then we'll set up something so that he can come and discuss with council as well, because you're right, it has been a while since he's presented to council. We'll also, further to that, they've been recruiting an executive manager, and we should be able to give a name of who that is next week.
Through the Mayor, I'd just like to add, Councillor Turnbull, that I think whenever we have a subsidiary that we provide that provides an annual report, I think it's good practice that chairs present the report to member councils. So that's something that I would hope and expect for us as a council. Once we have annual reports, that the chairs or the CEOs can actually come and present and answer questions.
Through the Mayor, one thing I forgot to add to that as well is there's actually a review of the Constitution currently underway for BRSI, and that review is also recommending as part of the council resolution that there is a twice yearly report to council.
Councillor Davey?
Just one further question, and it's regarding East Waste. I'm not sure if there are any opportunities that we've got or they've got for increased waste resource recovery services. Is that part of their bailiwick? One of the things that I heard, I think while I was gardening, I heard a documentary about looking at, and I don't know what stage it's at or who's developing it, but a Japanese model where you have a high temperature furnace, and a lot of the stuff that goes into land waste can be incinerated, essentially. It's a really old-fashioned concept, but I think it's being used successfully in other countries, and I just wondered if East Waste had considered that as an option.
Through the Mayor, East Waste, as the report says, they've appointed BDO to do that service level review. Part of that review, the Chair and the BDO consultant met with us and our senior staff. And the challenge for East Waste is that not all councils have the same view regarding what type of services and recycling services should be provided and what are the key drivers. So I think we're waiting for the outcome of that service review, really, and then that's something that we'd be bringing back.
Councillor Cornish, I'll give you the opportunity if you wish to speak as a seconder. Otherwise, I will now then go back to Councillor Davey. You're happy for me to put the motion? All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Now, you have all received the answers last week of the questions on notice. And we will now move to the motions on notice, the first one being Councillor Wilkins. It's item 13.1 on page 321.
Thank you, Your Worship. One slight alteration. I've just been advised tonight, instead of a 12-month trial, Barry said it can only be a 6-month trial. So I'll ask my co-ward councillor to amend the motion, please.
Apparently you can't amend the motion that's on notice, but someone else could do that for you. So Councillor Jennings, that's what you're about to do, is it?
Happy to amend the motion.
All right, and we need a seconder for that amendment of the motion.
I haven't.
Mayor, Councillor Jennings or somebody should second the motion, and then someone should move a variation that the mover and the seconder accepts for this to be clean.
So Councillor Davey, are you willing to second the motion? Right, and then we'll go back to Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you.
With change from, no, do I have to put that to the vote?
No,
Councillor Jennings
just requests a variation.
Yes,
And then if the
now you
mover
can
and seconder
request.
agree,
Yeah, okay.
then it's varied.
So you
It's
make a
varied.
formal request then, Councillor Jennings?
I wish to move the amended motion from 6 months, from 12 months to 6 months. Thank you.
And
You're happy?
I support that.
so you're happy with that? So now you can speak to the motion? Thank you. And Councillor Davey, you'll be next to speak.
Okay.
Can you just turn your mic on? Sorry.
We've moved on.
So there is a mover and a seconder accepted the variation.
Yeah,
So now we've moved on, so it's up for people to discuss or
Yeah.
debate.
yeah.
But doesn't Councillor Wilkins
She missed a
speak
chance.
first?
So she can
She can.
sum up, because she should have spoken before there was a
She should have
seconder.
spoken before, that's
Harvey's
right,
quite right.
yeah, okay. All right, Councillor Jones.
Here we go again. The ink is scarcely dry on the budget that we went out to public consultation on, and we have somebody wanting to spend more money. Look, we had an exhaustive process of budget bids, and everybody had the same chance to put budgets up. We discussed them exhaustively. Some people pulled their budgets out for the good of the team, and it's just totally outrageous that yet again we have this circumventing of the process for people to put extra spending into next year's budget when we've already agreed, gone out to the council, said this is how much we want to spend, this is how much we want to raise rates by. No matter how worthy the project is, colleagues, we should not be changing our budget before we've even got to 1 July. I just cannot support this, however lovely and wonderful and worthy a project this may be. We need to stick to the process that we've agreed, because otherwise, every meeting we're going to be doing the same things. Everyone's going to say, well, if Councillor Wilkins can do it, well, why can't I do it? And we'll just end up in a gigantic mess, and yet again, we will spend far more than we've budgeted to. We're trying to go through budget repair. Hard to go through budget repair when you have unbudgeted expenditure not matched by rates revenue. You go further and further into debt, and then come the next year, we'll be saying, oh, you know how how we said we'd have a CPI rate increase? Well, you won't be able to, because you'll be recovering your overspending in the year. So, look, however delightful this project is, just please say no.
Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a question. Will it still cost $20,000 for 6 months, or will it only be $10,000? See, the $20,000 was for 12-month trial. Please?
Through the Mayor, yes. It will still cost $20,000. Unfortunately, we don't rent the bollards. We'll have to purchase the bollards and install. So the $20,000 includes the supply and installation of the suitable bollards, which will have to be crash impact bollards. Signage is recommended by a traffic engineer, and then cost associated with the statutory requirements under the Act. So it's still $20,000.
Can I speak to it now, please?
Yes, you can speak to it, but can I ask a question that might help before you speak to it, Councillor Turnbull?
Okay, certainly.
My question is, why 6 months? Because obviously you have talked about it. Why was the suggestion of reducing it? That's all.
Through yourself, we were made aware of the legislative requirements under the Roads Act that there's only certain roads, and they have to either intersect with a highway that can actually be under a trial position, can be closed for a period of 12 months. And that's with the explicit approval of the Director of Highways. Any other road can only be closed for a maximum of 6 months under a trial.
Right, thank you. So Now Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Well, I agree with Councillor Jones. This motion, although admirable, should have been a budget bid and considered alongside all the other budget bids back in March. It has not been part of the community consultation process, so residents do not know that we're spending this money. They won't be happy, judging by the emails and statements we are constantly receiving. This council has a nasty big debt, and still projects like this keep surfacing. Just 20,000 here, 40,000 there, maybe another 20,000 on the way. We had a protocol for budget bids, which we should stick to. Some of us did, and it should be a fair and equitable process for all, so I won't be voting for this.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Jennings, you seconded the motion. Did you? Sorry, Councillor Davey has entered the debate.
Yes, I'd like to speak, but can we just clarify, please, wasn't it Councillor Wilkins who moved and Councillor Jennings who seconded the motion?
I understand it had to be Councillor Jennings because you moved an alternate motion, an amended motion.
Thank you, sorry.
No, actually, it's Councillor Wilkins' motion on notice, so she's moved the motion. Councillor Wilkins has seconded the motion, and then Councillor Jennings has requested a variation that has been accepted by the mover and seconder. So the mover, Councillor Davey, you're quite right, should be Councillor Wilkins. That's right. Yes, Councillor Wilkins. And the seconder should have been Councillor Davey.
Yes.
I'm in support of the motion. I've heard all of the debate about the protocols, and I followed them assiduously and then withdrew projects, and some were overturned. But my concern with this one is that it particularly relates to safety. And while we're doing precinct plans and traffic management plans on a holistic and strategic basis, we've still got our little local concerns. And having looked at the area and looked at and have heard over the years of the problems that Councillor Wilkins and Councillor Jennings relate to us in council about the through traffic, the rat running that goes on, and the increases in the number of pedestrians, small children going to kindies, people using the reserve, and then the increasing volume of cyclists. I think we should really try whatever we can do to cut down these risks to these community members. So I think this is a very valuable plan. It's only 20,000. I'm saying that in quotation marks. We've got a dreadful feasibility study for my Linden Avenue Reserve for 40,000, which I think is a huge waste of money. But I think in terms of this trial, I think it would be very valuable to get the data and the stats to really determine the issues and to see whether what's worthwhile in the future for management of this area, which is high risk, ever growing, and has increasing traffic volumes. So hopefully you'll support it. Thank you.
Councillor Hallett.
Through you, Mayor, a question to the administration. On page 322, the dot points, Main Street has one of the highest percentage of peak hour volumes. What's that? Is that for the whole of the city of Burnside? Is it for the whole of suburban Adelaide? Or is it just in that area that it has the highest percentage?
Through the Mayor, yes. The specific comment is relating to the draft precinct plan for Eastwood. Yep. So it's talking about the suburb of Eastwood. So that's what's in relation to.
Okay, so we could have other areas that have a higher volumes, peak hour volumes.
That is true, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Your Worship. So when something's pops up in my email address, the first thing that I do is I generally ride or run down there and have a look what's going on. So I sat in on my top tube, and I sat there and watched the cars at 4 o'clock. And some were going quick, some were going slow, but there was definitely people who had a shortcut in mind. So let's see what happens. Thank you.
I've just been asked if you should have had the right to speak then, so I'm just getting the governance decision on that.
Through the Mayor, a variation is speaking, so he shouldn't have, even though he spoke, we didn't interrupt him and stop him in time, so, but yeah, you can only ask questions.
So technically we should ignore what you've had to say. Councillor Cornish.
Just a few questions if I could. Can I get a bit more information about this particular project and the local traffic management plan that's been consulted already and the feedback? Is this one of the highest priority projects from that plan that the local community there have highlighted as the largest priority? If that makes any sense.
Through the Mayor, just to clarify how this has been developed to this point, the plan itself has yet to be finalised and presented to Council as a draft form. That would then be subject to full community consultation as part of that process. There has, in the development of the draft plan, there was an initial round of consultation, which was essentially open feedback, asking residents to provide their concerns, thoughts, opportunities, all into developing this precinct plan. That also provided the ward councillors an opportunity to provide their feedback and inclusions within the plan or recommendations within the plan. I cannot recall where this sat and how many people identified this as a priority, but I know that it came up through that process.
Okay, so it has come up through the process. Just wondering if I've got another question, but I don't at the moment. I might have to come back to you.
No, there's nobody else on there.
Okay, I will, look, I will speak to this. I'll be in support of it. It's $20,000. Yes, it does seem like a lot. It's a budget. The word is a budget. It's not set in stone. It's not a commandment. Well, in any place there is a budget. If there was a storm, we would spend money to clean up. Like, if it's not in the budget, it's not in the budget. So, but this is a request that's coming through from our community. We have been doing a lot of work in Eastwood. I do understand about the potentially cherry picking a little project, but this is a pilot. It is or a trial. It can only be for 6 months. I do have maybe some concerns about consultation in the area. I don't know whether or not a lot of people know this is coming, or whether or not us just doing this, it's going to happen without them actually being consulted, which is obviously my next question that I was thinking of. But I think I am supportive of doing it, because I certainly know that, well, I do this rat run very, very frequently, and I do apologise to the residents of Eastwood, but it is mainly due to a change in traffic conditions further down Glen Osmond Road that has precipitated this, my rat run there, because you could not turn right coming out of KFC on Glen Osmond Road late at night. So, and I don't really want to go all the way up to Fullerton Road on Glen Osmond Road, so I nip down Main Street. And then I wave at Di's house when I drive past it. I do see it is probably an issue for the local community, and knowing that, I will be supportive of it.
Through the Mayor, I'd like to clarify some of the comments just made there. I also use that as a cut through, I'll be honest. If council proceeds with the recommendation as written, there is a couple of pendings as part of this process, and it's pending the inclusion of the trial in the final council endorsed precinct plan for Eastwood, so when it's presented to council in the next couple of months, and also following all necessary consultation and legislative requirements around road closures. The draft precinct plan itself will be subject to full community consultation, and then if council proceeds with the road closure trial, part of the road closure process includes notifying affected property owners, utility service providers, and placing public notices on the websites and the newspapers and gazettes. So there are a couple of extra steps or milestones that you do have to connect before this would proceed.
May I just ask a question that sort of relates to that, and that's on page 322, residents of John and Main Street West will have greater difficulty accessing the city. Does that come out of the investigation for the precinct plan? Could you expand on that, please?
Through the Mayor, when all considerations or recommendations are made within the precinct plan, the consultants and the staff look at the potential positives and then the potential impacts to the surrounding network. So what we're saying is when you initiate an action or close one road, the issue may go elsewhere. So what we're talking about is potential impacts that could happen. As part of the study into that, that would actually be considered. The rationale for doing a trial would be to understand whether those potential concerns are perceived or whether they're actual. So we would get that understanding through a trial process.
Councillor Cornish, you need to turn your mic. Or you
No,
another
Martha,
question?
I do have another question. Your question has precipitated another question. Am I right in saying, so if this consultation comes back after we've endorsed the plan and the local residents say no, the trial won't go ahead and the 20 grand goes back into the bucket? We don't spend it?
Through the Mayor, that would be our recommendation to council. Council would ultimately have that final say, but that would be our recommendation.
But that's not what this motion says. Okay, oh, can I clarify that, please? I'm not quite sure if it's the chicken or the egg situation.
It does say that. So it's pending the inclusion of the trial in the final council endorsed precinct plan. So the draft precinct plan will go to the community for consultation. If the community don't support it, council will then have an opportunity to endorse the final precinct plan. So at that stage, they can remove this project from the precinct plan. Secondary, there'll be necessary consultation through the road closure, even if it's included within the precinct plan. So there'll be two separate opportunities for the community to have their say on this project. And each time if they, as a community, say they don't want it, the council will have the opportunity to withdraw it from the budget.
I have to say that's my major concern since, as it's been quoted before, even the fear of potential road closure has caused so much fuss. All right, they've got no one here on the screen, so I'm going to go back to Councillor Wilkins.
I point out to you that the time has come. We have had numerous traffic management studies in Eastwood, starting back in 2010, 13, 15, 16, 16 and 17, and 25, 26. It's the precinct plans from the Tonkin Traffic Survey, September 24. Bicycle network plans identify a need for safety for cyclists and pedestrians, and it is more justifiable to implement greater interventions in the area to slow or block traffic. Hence the reason for putting some bollards at Main Street alongside the park where there's a Grove Kindy. Next door is Cranley House, which is the childcare centre. And there are also lots of mums with bumps who walk the streets and oldies. Tonkin's traffic consultation earlier this year identified that the bicycle network through Eastwood needed a safer roadway to traverse down Elizabeth Street into Birkin Street, to cross Greenhill Road, at Birkin Street into Beaumont Road. And Jack has already approached the Minister for the signalised crossing into Beaumont Road. Through the parklands and into the city, so many cyclists do that now. It's also imperative that we create this block to rat runners, even nice rat runners, via Main and John Street, as Grove Kindy and Cranley House Care Centre are at this juncture. Cyclists will then have a safe passage through our neighbourhood, and residents can have peace and a safe neighbourhood, still with access to the main roads. Our future request to government is a grant for signalised crossing. Well, that's in action already. And he's been advised, the Minister's Department is advised that they are preparing concept designs for improvement for cyclists and pedestrian crossings at Greenhill Road and Eastwood. I point out to you that the traffic volumes in Eastwood are approximately 400 vehicles per day. 400. These are narrow streets. Ratepayers cannot, particularly in John Street, have difficulty parking their own cars out the front because they have no garages. They're tiny workers' cottages from the 1880s. The vehicle speeds are on 85th percentile is about 37 kilometres. Average speed in Elizabeth Street is 28. None of us can do 50, but there's about 69 vehicles that continue on at 50 miles per hour plus.
50 miles?
Oh, kilometres per hour. So I do point out to you that there is a need to do something for this tiny, tiny suburb that we have at the bottom of Burnside Council. I leave it up to you, councillors. Safety for our residents, young and old. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins, you turn your mic off, please.
Sure.
All right, I shall put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? I had a feeling that that might happen. My biggest concern is those people who may not want this. So I am going to vote, and I don't like the extra $20,000. I don't like working outside of the budget bid. So I'm actually in quite a quandary here as to whether to go with the budget bid on that principle, or on the principle of the community will have a say. And I know this has been a passionate undertaking for a very long time. So please don't mutter while I'm trying to make a decision one way or the other. Okay. Yes, but people change not everyone's the same. All right. I'm going to support it. Decision's been called. Those who supported the motion, please stand. Councillor Jennings, Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Davey and Councillor Cornish. Those against, Councillor Turnbull, Councillor Jones, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Hallett. And the motion, and myself and the Mayor of the casting vote. And I just hope the consultation solves the problem one way or the other. Thank you. The motion was carried. Now we move to the second one, which is Councillor Turnbull, synthetic turf grass 13.2 on page 324.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation is, 1, recognises that synthetic turf is undesirable in the environment and conflicts with Council's objectives to preserve and enhance habitat. Number 2, notes that Council does not approve new installations of synthetic turf on verges in accordance with condition 28 of the Council's verge development policy. And number 3, requests a report by September 25 outlining how Council could A, remove existing synthetic turf, and B, restrict or ban the use of synthetic turf on all Council land. It became a bit of a topic because I had a call from ABC Breakfast Show and was asked to speak on that. So that's my radio debut. But I did think that Jules had a wonderful thing to say. He calls it, he hated artificial grass. He said it's the toupee of the vergers, and it is really. Several local councils in South Australia have implemented restrictions or outright bans on the installation of artificial turf on council-managed land, particularly on vergers. Two examples are the City of Mitcham and the City of Prospect. Artificial turf, synthetic turf, plastic grass, whatever you want to call it, has no place on council land, and particularly on council vergers. Although initially it looks green and tidy and doesn't need watering or mowing, after some years it degrades and becomes visually ugly. The median strip on our Portrush Road is one example. The gateway to Adelaide. Likewise, there are several roundabouts in our council area which are not under council control, but which do reflect on us. I think that in the last 6 years I've received more complaints about the eyesore that is the roundabout at the corner of Kensington Road and Hallett Road than any other matter. But apart from the visual aspect, there are very strong environmental impacts resulting from the use of these materials. In summary, these relate to two aspects: heating of the ground surface and the release of microplastic particles into the environment. Firstly, heating. Burnside's proud to be a leafy green city. It's embodied in our logo. As our climate warms, the role of vegetation becomes even more critical in mitigating excess warming. Artificial plastic grass is a big absorber and a retainer of heat, and unlike actual plants, generates very high surface temperatures. As an example, please refer to the sheet showing the heat maps conducted by Council on our own Kensington Gardens Reserve. The surface temperature on the artificial grass was 38.2, and on the adjacent grass oval playing surface was just 24.8. There's quite a lot of difference on the same time, the same day. Any artificial grass surfaces contribute unduly to the warming of our city, but the microplastic particles are more important. They're not biodegradable. They progressively break down under UV, forming very large numbers of microplastic particles that are released to the environment, particularly in the waterways and the soil. There's increasing scientific concern about the negative impact that the absorption of these numerous particles is having on living organisms. And through the food web, this translates to their uptake in the food that we eat, particularly fish, actually. Research indicates that plastic grass surfaces have an effective life of 8 to 15 years. The shabby look of the local median strip and roundabout surfaces suggests that these are much older than that. I'll leave it to you to imagine just how many microplastic particles they've released and continue to be released into our environment. So our own Kensington Gardens Reserve has 2 bowls, plain green, that are artificial grass. 2 installations, 2016 and 2022, both supported by large loans from Council. They'll need to run for their useful life, 8 to 10 years. After that, there'll have to be consultation between the club and the council as to whether they have to dig them all up and start again, or whether they can keep them. So that's in 8 to 10 years. I'm finished.
Right. Now, Councillor Davey, you're seconding it? Yes, I am. Councillor Turnbull, can you turn your microphone off, please?
I'm very happy to second this, and I'm happy to speak now. I endorse all Councillor Turnbull's comments, and I watch with horror as you drive around Burnside and more widely around our community in Adelaide, and you see artificial plastic grass appearing in our streets, on our roundabouts, and in some places in our parks and reserves. It is, for all the reasons that have been outlined, it is a deadly challenge and risk to our environment. It fragments, it disperses plastic into the atmosphere, but the worst feature of this grass is that it destroys the soil underneath it and all the microbiomes and the health of the soil as well. And as well, it is an environmental nightmare. It doesn't recycle. It's very difficult to dispose of it. So I think we need to be proactive. We need to have a campaign in Burnside to actually stop people from putting this down on their verges. Of course, it looks lovely and neat and it's very colourful. I think we can promote the alternatives much more, and I think get people to remove what they've put down. I'd also like us to see perhaps getting help from Green Adelaide to see what they can do. We make great contributions to them. hopefully they could give us some grants or some help in some way to feature the downfalls and the negligence and the risks of artificial grass. So hopefully you'll support this.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Towards the end of 2020, when not much was happening in Adelaide, I went out on New Year's Day just to have a look at the lineup at the testing centre in Pakabakanthi, otherwise known as Victoria Park, and it was a hot day, and I was getting around with my infrared thermometer and just taking readings of the asphalt. That's when I found people who had just left their thongs as they'd gotten out of their car for a wander, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, just taking the measurements of some bitumen and of some synthetic grass. It was actually hotter when you took the temperature of synthetic grass at 4 o'clock in the afternoon compared to bitumen, and I thought that was remarkable, noteworthy. So I will support this. It looks great. It's you know, you lay it and forget about it, unless of course you've got an ornamental tree planted underneath and then the roots come out. Blah blah blah. Thank you, Councillor Turnbull, for bringing this to council. Thank you.
Councillor Hallett.
I've got 2 questions, please. Do other councils ban clubs using artificial turf?
Through the Mayor, not that I'm aware of. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but not that I'm aware of.
And the second question is, do we actually have verges with it on?
Through the Mayor, yes, we do. We don't allow any new verges with this installation. So since the policy was adopted in 2022, any report of synthetic turf going on a verge, that's when we issue an order to the owner to have it removed at their cost. We grandfathered existing verges prior to the policy position, so we haven't done the opportunity to tackle those at this stage. This report, if endorsed by council, would consider how we manage any existing verges with synthetic turf.
So private landholders have put the plastic grass on there, okay, on our land. Thank you.
Councillor Davey.
Just a question, if I may, just following up from Councillor Hallett's. Are we dependent on people reporting the installation of the plastic turf on our verges? Or do we have a proactive stance? Often it's after in new developments where you see it go up. So I just wondered what our approach is and how we manage it currently. Thanks.
Through the Mayor, a little bit of both helps. If our team, while out and about on their duties or as part of the verge maintenance programme, notice it, then obviously it will be reported and we'll go through that process. But a little bit of community help does always help as well, so when it's reported we'll act on it as that way as well.
Councillor Wilkins.
I might point out that in South Australia, Sophie Thompson is the best advocate for removing synthetic grass from verges, footpaths, etc. I would start with Dipty in the island on Portrush Road. I think there's still some there. I'll have another drive, but there was, whether it's been removed, that would be a good start.
Through the Mayor, just to clarify, this report is looking at council land, not private land, not state-owned land. We will be keeping this report in line with the resolution that will concentrate on council land.
I think I actually reported someone in Cooper Place who was about to lay down in front of 2 houses or 2 properties. I saw it all rolled up, and I contacted council, and they were out very quickly to tell them to remove it, get rid of it. They were not allowed to install it. So we caught that one before it was installed. So I think it is really important. The more people know that we have that policy and that attitude against the installation of synthetic turf on our verges, the less of a problem that can be. The other thing I just wanted to mention, I thought I was going to be the last to speak, sorry, Councillor Cornish, is at the Environment Expo, our urban forest staff actually had samples of a piece of bitumen, a piece of synthetic grass, a piece of grass, and a piece of grasses, and they had heat lamps over the top of each of them with a measure so you could actually look at the difference in the temperature between, and of course the one that was the best in terms of cooling was the one with the shrubs. And bitumen was, of course, the hottest, and the synthetic grass was not much under the synthetic grass, at least earlier in the morning. It might have been heated up later in the day, but that was a really good example for the community to see the impact of heat on synthetic grass. Now, Councillor Cornish.
Just a question, maybe a couple of questions first. Do we, regarding Dipty land effectively, do we have a set of rules that tells Dipty that we do not want synthetic grass on our medians or verges when they're doing roads in our areas?
I hope I understood the question. When we work with them with relevant 221 applications, etc., we certainly provide them with the information required for reinstatement of land, etc. If you're talking about assets such as roundabout verges under the responsibility of DIT, we don't have that authority to dictate how and what that is managed. There are some, very few roundabouts, we're actually reviewing that at this stage, where council has historically assisted in maintaining those assets, and that's where we take more of an active control over how that asset's maintained.
Thank you. I am effectively referring at Greenhill Road. Certainly, I think a lot between Burnside Village and Fullerton Road, there is a lot of synthetic green in the middle of that, section of road. I do not think it has been replaced since it was installed probably 20 years ago. And I don't think, do you know if Dipty has a replacement program for their synthetic grass that they have previously installed?
Through the Mayor, I'll take most of that on notice, and perhaps cover it off in a section within the report. So while I said they'll fundamentally concentrate on what council can do to council assets, it doesn't mean it can't advocate or consult with DIP with respect to some of those assets. In my experience, and I haven't had this conversation specifically about Greenhill Road, but quite often we will be advised by the state government that if we would like to take it over and change the treatment, then it will come at council's cost. Doesn't hurt us asking or advocating, and we can cover that within this report if it's endorsed.
Can I offer a variation or an amendment to actually include that as Part C? That I would like the report to contain how council could deal or interact with DIT infrastructure that has old or neglected synthetic artificial greens or grass. And in speaking to that, I think it's probably the biggest bugbear that we've got in the community is those roundabouts that are Dipty that have got those really pieces of old synthetic green that are ripped, that have got thistles growing through sections, you know, similarly, you know, in medians as well. And if we're looking, and apart from obviously there are environmental issues regarding synthetic turf, I do think that there is an aesthetic and an amenity issue as well when they're not properly replaced. And DIT, I clearly do not properly replace them after they've installed it. And I think we need to learn what we can actually do with it. So I hope someone supports the amendment or variation. I don't know if it would be, it's probably more than a variation, it's probably more of an amendment. And I'm hoping someone else is available to second it.
A variation if Councillor Turnbull would accept that to be added as point C. And Councillor Davey would also support it. You happy to do that? So we just need to get that wording in. And so they're in agreement to interact with or consult with. Not quite right. Councillor Cornish, it was yours, so I'll leave you to suggest and tidy that up.
Interact with, work with. Liaise with what? Liaise with DIT on its infrastructure.
Its policy and implementation of synthetic grass in Burnside. On its policy and practice of installing synthetic grass. Councillor Cornish, it's up to you.
Well, it's technically not up to me because I'm not the mover and seconder who's going to take it on as a variation. But obviously get rid of the all grass at the end too.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah, synthetic, and probably say turf, not grass, since to make it consistent with the rest of the motion. Sorry, I wasn't reading that. Do apologise, Brian.
Putting something back and remediation of this grass.
Installation and remediation. Yeah. Or maintenance.
Of installing
And maintenance of synthetic turf.
Aren't we talking about what's already in place, installed?
Or installed is fine, rather than new. But, because they still might install more, we don't have the rules in place is...
Should be then installation and maintenance of synthetic turf.
I think that probably gives you enough
Yes,
to
that's
report on.
And Councillor Turnbull, are you happy with that?
Say of the installation.
And Councillor Davey?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, I shall go to Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Turnbull?
Thank you for the input, everybody. I was going to bring some in of this artificial turf and wave it round like Senator Hanson-Young did with her fish, but I couldn't even cut it, couldn't even pick it up. It's so embedded into some of those roundabouts that you need a chainsaw to get a bit out. It's horrible stuff, really. And really, the City of Burnside has implemented a comprehensive set of environmental policies and strategies. These are aimed at fostering sustainability, enhancing biodiversity and mitigating climate change impacts. By supporting this motion, we'll be supporting that cornerstone of Burnside Council's environmental policy. That is the Environment Sustainability Strategy 2024 to 28. And part of it was to promote sustainable living by encouraging environmentally responsible behaviours amongst our residents. Well, we might, if we could tell them, no, I'm sorry, you cannot have artificial turf on your verge. That might help a lot. So I'm hoping that you'll support this motion, please. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Motion's carried. I didn't ask for against. Next one is pedestrian crossing and roundabouts. Councillor Harvey, page 326.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the motion as recommended that Council requests the CEO to write to the Honourable Tom Koutsantonis, MP, Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, seeking support and consideration of the following matters under the care and responsibility of the Department of Infrastructure and Transport. 1. The urgent upgrade, improvement of the pedestrian crossing at the intersection of the Parade and Penfold Road, McGill, with a pedestrian refuge to ensure the safety of the community, including school children, while crossing this road. And 2, the beautification of the roundabouts located at the intersections of Penfold Road and the Parade, Penfold Road and Kensington Road, and the upgrade and beautification of the roundabout at the intersection of Kensington Road and Hallett Road. I am actually not asking for any money, surprise, surprise. All I'm asking for is a safe refuge crossing and the beautification of 3 roundabouts. I have been working on a safe refuge crossing north of the Parade and Penfold Road for some time now to make it safer for students, the elderly and all our community. So I'm asking for a support letter from the CEO to state government for this much needed upgrade to include metal safety barriers as per all safe refuge crossings now. Metal bar protection and safety that pedestrians can hold on to while negotiating this extremely busy intersection and roundabout. The existing crossing is in dire need of this upgrade, and I have seen many students running the gauntlet here with cars accelerating around this very busy corner. It is an accident waiting to happen. I have met with the former principal and current principal of Norwood International High School, who both fully support this upgrade for their students to have safe access in crossing the road. Jack Batty, MP, as I've handed out, has helped me with the safe refuge crossing on Kensington Road and has also now written to the state government supporting this upgrade and that of the beautification of the 3 roundabouts in desperate need. This is to include vegetation and planting of vegetation and certainly not any artificial turf. Our world-renowned and historic Penfolds Winery is located between 2 of these roundabouts, a haven for tourists who need to pass by these roundabouts to visit this iconic location. These roundabouts are an eyesore in their current state, as I have also shown you in the copies that I have circulated. They need the beautification with planting of shrubs and, not, as I said, not artificial turf. I hope you support this motion. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Turnbull, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you. Reserve my right.
All right, Councillor Hallett. Do you wish to speak then? No? All right. I have no one else who wishes to speak, Councillor Turnbull, so do you want to speak now? So since there's no one here, I'm happy. Oh, Councillor Cornish, you've just come on.
Yeah,
sorry.
I do apologise. Just a question of the CEO, if I could. This is requesting that you write to the Honourable Tom Koutsantonis MP. Previous CEOs have effectively just done a one-line, council moved this, and please reply, and just shoved in our motion and sent that as the letter. Is that your intent with this? This is like my first roadshow with you in writing letters on our behalf, or do you actually write a letter expressing it rather than just, council moved this? Can you respond? Sorry, thanks for the question.
Through the Mayor, thank you for that, Councillor Cornish. I will write a letter and include the motion. I think also because we've picked this up as a neighbourhood level project as well in our advocacy plan, so that gives us an opportunity to talk about the advocacy plan too. So I think there's a couple of strategic items. It gives us an opportunity for us to contact the Minister and also speak specifically to this project, but also lets us talk about our advocacy plan.
Councillor Dave.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm very happy to support this. I think they're all, well, the issue of safety, especially around school children, and it's again what we've discussed in Eastwood. It's the older people who are so vulnerable at these crossings and intersections, and the young children, especially when there's a school nearby, as in McGill. And with the beautification of roundabouts, well, Councillor Wilkins and I have been on about this for years. We have got many of them. We actually had a roundabout upgrade program for some time, and where we did upgrade a lot of our roundabouts, greened them up and beautified them, because as Councillor Turnbull has said, it is all part of our streetscape management and reducing heat effect and heat build-up, as well as beautification. As Councillor Turnbull said, and Councillor Harvey has alluded, the roundabout at Hallett Road is disgusting. It's just, it blends in so closely with the road. It's so old and shabby. It just blends in as part of the road. So I think greening it up and vegetating it will actually make it safer. So I'm absolutely happy to support this and hope it gets through.
There's no one else who wishes to speak. I just want to actually say that I really also I credit you with that comment about the tourist aspect, because it is disgusting for people, international tourists who go sometimes in busloads to the Penfolds Winery, and they have to pass at least one or two of those roundabouts that are really disreputable. So I hope that will be considered in the letter. Councillor Jennings.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, excellent. The roundabout that is on the corner of Hallett and the Parade is just despicable. We've got a world-renowned winery. We've got tourists going past there. I'm lucky enough to cycle through there going all four ways, and it is just a wasteland. They could have gotten some. You can write to Grow It Local, and they'll send you some seeds which you can just throw in there. With the recent rain, we could do it ourselves and get change from $10. But let's ask Minister Koutsantonis and see what he says. He might even dig a tunnel under it. Who knows?
Councillor Harvey, do you wish to sum up? Happy for me to put the motion?
Happy to move.
All right, then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Now we need to move into confidential items, and that may mean some staff, no? Oh, we have to do urgent business first, do we? Yeah. Sorry, we have to do urgent business first, and Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, I just wanted to briefly pay tribute to former councillor Alan Ward, who died recently. Alan was a long-standing Beaumont resident. He was a Beaumont Ward councillor for 13 and a half years, from memory 1992 to 2006. And he was first elected back when there were two-year terms, so he was elected on numerous occasions. I first met Alan through the Liberal Party. No Liberal Party meeting was complete without Alan asking the guest speaker about how rail freight could solve all of Adelaide's problems. Well, it's a shame you never knew Alan, perhaps, then. Ted, there are open spaces in Beaumont and Burnside Council that are still open because of Alan. He was an invaluable resource for me when I first joined council. Look, he was in the army. Then he joined South Australian Police and worked as a motorcycle cop for many years. He was the kind of guy, you know, we would leave meetings and you'd still be talking to him in the car park 2 hours later. So yes, look, I just wanted to pay tribute to Alan and to send our condolences to Shirley. So that was it. I'm sure many of you would have served on council with Alan.
Councillor Wilkins?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'd endorse all that Councillor Jones has said. When I came on, and Jane as well, in 2003, Alan was there. And he was, as Councillor Jones said, always advocating for his community and for rail. And with a long conversation more often than not. So he put his heart and soul into that community in Beaumont. And he actually did a stint on Cyprus as well in his earlier career. And he loved travelling on trains. All over the world, he and Shirley went on train journeys. So, vale to Alan, and I'm sorry he has gone, because he's one of the treasures in Burnside. Thank you.
Councillor Davey?
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to just also pay tribute, and thank you, Councillor Jones, for the in memorial. And I hope this will go as a motion. This will be acknowledged in the minutes as some sort of motion. Alan was one of life's true characters. He was also very strong in protecting our trees, and he was very consistent in recognising the importance of open space, greenery and preservation of our trees. And yes, he did value highly moving freight, transport of freight onto our trains, and in that he was very ahead of his time and very correct. He was a great character. He could really demolish a bottle or two of wine. And we had some robust debates. So rest in peace, Alan, you'll be missed.
I just endorse that because I was a Beaumont Ward councillor for 8 years and Alan gave me a lot of advice. But I also couldn't get away from him, particularly at Burnside CFS Christmas parties. The other valet I really would like to note, sorry?
Through the Mayor, can I suggest, picking up on Councillor Davey, that we actually do have a motion that we can actually apply for the minutes, because otherwise this will be a notation that we can actually have something written.
I will, if I can.
Put that to the vote now then. All those in favour? Against is carried. I would also like to make comment about the need to acknowledge the passing of retired Colonel Peter Scott, DSO-OAM. He was one of the 3 members of the Burnside Military History Research Group who together audited all the plaques down in the in the district Fallen Soldiers Memorial from World War I. That means now there are 2 of those 3 who have now departed, and They were amazing, the work that they did, the hours and hours and hours of time that they spent searching through records to update and upgrade those plaques and identify soldiers who had passed during World War I that had never been honoured in that memorial. So Peter also, of course, was one of those 3 recipients of the Burnside Citizen of the Year in 2024 because of his contribution through the Military History Research Group. So I would really like someone else to move a motion in a similar way.
I'm happy to move a similar motion.
Right, Councillor Cornish, is there someone willing to second it? Councillor Jones. And I think it could be similarly that Council notes the passing of retired Colonel Peter Scott, DSO OAM, for his who contributed to the Burnside Military History Research Group at the District Fallen Soldiers Memorial in Rose Park's Avenue of Honour. And recipient of Burnside Citizen of the Year 2024. Sorry? And recipient of the Burnside Citizen of the Year in 2024. And Michelle Toft, our Historical and Cultural Officer, attended the funeral on behalf of the council, which was very nice. She had worked very, very closely with that group of 3. And Ian, the last remaining one of that trio, was able to have a very long chat with at the volunteers event last Thursday as well. No, we're about to. We're just waiting. Now it's ready. Okay. Yes, we don't need to put mere amount. So the council recognises the passing. The council recognises the passing of retired, can you put, oh, you've got it in there already, retired DSO OAM who contributed to the Burnside History Research Group at the District Fallen Soldiers. That's fine. And recipient of, and was recipient of? It doesn't matter, and recipient of the Burnside Citizen of the Year in 2024. And again, condolences to his family, and apparently the funeral was huge. And there's a great dedication to him in the RSL notes as well, from local RSL notes. Right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Happy to move to go into confidence.